liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the September 5th, 2024 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for Shawnee County. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair this year. Joining me is Commissioner Aaron Mays. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Bill Rippon. Good morning.
Good morning.
We have Ms. Chris Otto filling in for our county clerk, Ms. Beck. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Mr. Eckert is our county counselor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we begin, there will be an addition to the consent agenda that is under item number 3, and that will be added as item number J, and that is a temporary specialty license agreement for allowing the Cirque Entertainment, let's see, 4 LLC to be able to hold a event out at the Velma Paris Park. So, and that will be added as a consent item to the agenda. And that will be added as an item by the chair. So, with that, Madam Clerk, if you can read our first item.
Okay, number 1, revenue neutral rate public hearing. A, public hearing in consideration of Shawnee County Resolution Number 2024-58, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget year for Shawnee County that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 46.561 mils.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move to open the public hearing.
Second.
There has been a motion to open public hearing by Commissioner Mays. There has been a second to open public hearing by Commissioner Rippon. If we can have, and just in an abundance of caution, a roll call vote on the opening of the public hearing.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Rippon.
Yes.
That vote having been passed 3-0, the revenue neutral rate public hearing is now open. Before we hear public comment, I would like to make the following announcements to state how we will proceed. We will begin with a staff presentation from the Audit Finance Director. Following this presentation, we will hear from public testimony and comment on whether the county should exceed the revenue neutral rate for 2025 budget. Once we have heard from all of those wishing to speak, we will close the public comment. Commissioners may make any comments they wish to make, and then following a motion and a second, we will have a roll call vote on whether to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 2025 Shawnee County budget via the adoption of Resolution 2024-58. Following the vote on the resolution, we will close the public hearing on the revenue neutral rate and move on to our next agenda item. So, at this time, if we could have a presentation from the Audit Finance Director.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Sauer, Financial Administrator for Shawnee County. I'm just here to define so that everyone understands what exceeding the revenue neutral rate, or the RNR, means. Being revenue neutral means that Shawnee County budgets the exact same amount of property tax revenue in dollars for the 2025 budget year as we did for the 2024 budget year. That revenue neutral rate is the mill levy rate that would generate the exact same amount of property tax revenue as the year before, using the current tax year's total value, assessed valuation. So for example, if Shawnee County used $100 million of property tax revenue in 2024, being revenue neutral means that we would plan to use only $100 million in 2025 as well. So if Shawnee County intends to use even $1 more than that, we will exceed the revenue neutral rate. So before doing so, the law requires the county to hold a public hearing as this and take a roll call vote to pass a resolution to exceed that revenue neutral rate.
Do the commissioners have any questions for the Audit Finance Director?
No.
Seeing none? Okay. We will now hear public comment. Before we begin, the following rules will apply. We ask that you limit your remarks to whether Shawnee County should exceed the revenue neutral rate for the county's 2025 budget. Everyone will be allowed an opportunity to speak. Everyone who has signed up will have their name called and speak in the order they signed up, which is listed on the screen, followed by anyone who is here but did not sign up in advance. When your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Each speaker will be limited to 4 minutes. There is a timer on each of the TV screens that will assist you with that time limit. If you go beyond the 4-minute time limit, I will ask you to conclude your comments in fairness to everyone else who is here and waiting to speak. We will ask that you refrain from making any comments or remarks from the audience and limit your comments to your time at the podium. We have a lot of people here that are signed up to speak. Everyone's time is valuable. So rather than repeating something that a previous speaker has said, it is always acceptable for you to say that you agree with the previous speaker and return to your seat. Thank you in advance for your cooperation and patience. We will now hear public comment. The first person who is signed to speak is Rodrigo Alvarez. Is Rodrigo Alvarez present? Seeing that Rodrigo Alvarez is not present, the next person listed is Michael Williams. Is Michael Williams present? Michael Williams has not approached the podium. Our next speaker is Maria Fisher. Is Maria Fisher present? Maria Fisher has not approached the podium. The next speaker signed up is Amanda Contreras. Is Amanda Contreras present? Amanda Contreras has not approached the podium. The next speaker that is signed up is Jordan Tuberville. Is Jordan Tuberville present? Jordan Tuberville has not approached the podium. The next speaker that is signed up is Veronica Torres. Is Veronica Torres present? Veronica Torres has not approached the podium. The next speaker that is signed up is Pamela and Savoy. If you can please approach. Thank you. So Pamela Savoy has passed. The next speaker that is signed up is Linda Stevens. Is Linda Stevens present?
Good morning. My name is Linda Stevens, and I reside at 1838 Southwest Dudley Road, Topeka. My husband and I have lived on Gainesboro Road since 1985, and more recently since 2014 on Southwest Dudley. I, along with other county taxpayers, just want to be heard, and that's why I am here testifying along with other county residents. My husband and I moved from Texas in 1985, and our property taxes have repeatedly gone up. I don't believe a tax increase never happened in 1 year. Recently, we appealed to the county tax appraiser's office, not once, but twice, over 2 years. In each case, we were shown a second or third set of comps and told our taxes would go up regardless of our appeals. If 55% of 4,000 Kansas property tax entities did not raise taxes in 2023, why can't Shawnee County have revenue neutral rates? Wyandotte County stayed revenue neutral in 2023. I understand there is a list of the state of Kansas mandates. Adopting and referring to that list by the Shawnee County Commissioners would be a step in the right direction in gaining efficiency in the county budget. I imagine that Shawnee County could be a well-oiled machine. There are many positives about living in the Midwest. One of them should not be that Shawnee County in Kansas has one of the highest tax rates in the nation. I encourage you to adopt a zero-based budget to make sure expenditures are necessary. Don't kick the can down the road. Find and eliminate overspending, get rid of wasteful spending, reduce redundancies, and stay within the confines of your set annual county budget without an increase. Move toward efficiency. Don't spend what you don't have. This would show your concern for the constituents of Shawnee County who elected you. I encourage you to stop overspending unnecessarily. There is a family park with basketball courts, swings, covered shelter, etc. on Southwest Kings Row, maybe within a half a mile of the senior center pickleball courts recently built on 21st and Urish. The folks who use the pickleball courts should be the ones to pay for the courts by establishing memberships, paying dues, and doing fundraisers, not taxing Shawnee County residents. I have a question for you. Did anyone canvass the neighborhood surrounding 21st and Urish to see if there was a neighborhood need for pickleball courts and a senior center? We were never canvassed. In regards to a solution, this has already been carried out in other states. And I may start with Washburn Law School or other Kansas tax expert attorneys. Could a value adjustment board be established in Topeka? A friend gave me a letter from a Broward County, Florida company named Own Well. The company has offices in 6 other states as well. The company makes appealing your property tax assessment easy and stress-free. 86% of last year's clients got an assessment reduction. If a reduction does not happen, there are no upfront costs. With savings or free guarantee, Own Well handles everything from sign-up to savings. The fee for the service is 35% of whatever you are reduced in the first year's savings. If you save, you don't pay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker that is signed up is Chance Lammer. Mr. Lammer has passed. The next speaker that is signed up is Robert Williams.
Good morning, Commissioners. I first want to say that I agree with the previous speaker, and I also want to object wholeheartedly at the time of these meetings. 9 a.m. on a weekday does not represent the best interests of your constituents. It's shutting them out of these meetings. Most of them have to work. So I would encourage you, if you're running for office again, to maybe try and make an adjustment to accommodate your constituents and not the departments and your offices, right? So last year I was here and I was critical of the appraiser, and I made a push, or I suggested that we make a push to elect our appraisers, and in a condescending manner, Commissioner Cook pointed over to the State House, to the Capitol building, and said that's where I need to take my business with that. And I digress, he's correct. This local government is obliged to follow the statutes that are imposed upon them, if I'm not mistaken. That is correct, right? Well, I also brought to you last year Statute 19-2670, and your counselor, a different gentleman than sitting here before us today, said he was going to look into it and get back to us. I haven't heard anything. Don't know if you even recall what that is. And somebody mentioned here today about a similar suggestion. That, as far as I know, this is currently on the books. Citizens Commission on Local Governments. Question, do we exceed 170,000 in this county now? In the county, the population? I believe so, yeah. We're pushing almost 179,000 as of 2020. Well, this statute says these governments, or these counties that are between 170 and 200,000 should put together a citizens commission, and that the duties of that commission are to to investigate and study existing structure and operational units of local government. They investigate elimination of unnecessary activities and duplication of offices. Investigate and study the possibility and advisability of reforming the system of local government. Essentially, this commission is required by statute to be in place to look for inefficiencies and make local government more efficient. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure we have plenty of lawyers in this room, the word shall does not mean may or can or should. It means will or must, if I'm not mistaken. Please feel free to chime in if I'm out of line with that. No? Okay. So I never did get an answer as to why that committee has not been formed. We want to look for cost savings. Oh, well, I guess that's the main focus of my concern here, in addition to wanting to have a revenue-neutral budget this year. And apologize for my haste in my presentation, but I will end now. Thank you.
The next speaker is Henry McClure.
Henry McClure. I live at 520 Southeast 5th Street here in Topeka, Kansas, 66607. That's a hard act to follow. Not only do I agree with him, it's times two. That was awesome. But what was most important about his speech, which I want to form that committee. The citizens need to form the committee. We sure don't need your authority to form that committee. And that committee needs to go to work today. So I agree 100% and endorse him, and as well as the other speakers have brought up a lot of good points. But one thing that we need to do in this community is we need to figure out how to introduce new ideas. And that's a perfect example of how it's impossible to introduce new ideas that aren't filtered through the Greater Topeka Partnership. The idea of revenue neutral and what you guys are going to have to decide on, we're never talking about income. We don't talk about new income. It's really come to the point where the city realizes that the $5 million in infrastructure dollars or to economic development dollars are going to need to go to actual infrastructure, because there's a long list of roads that need to have to be finished. And there's no reason anymore to fund economic development when we don't get any benefit from it. The idea was to broaden the tax base. We haven't done that. And to increase the population. We haven't done that. So these are very good reasons for you to say, you know, Greater Topeka Partnership, we love you. I love your support. You've been putting me in office. Thank you so much. But now you get to fund Go Topeka. And let the private sector funnel those dollars and take the responsibility off us taxpayers. So we can actually start using income that comes in to take burden off of other projects that we need to, that the voters elected to do on the last time that we passed the half-cent sales tax. And I'm telling you, your county councilor wrote a letter today, or the other day, in defense of a letter that got to the Attorney General. I haven't had an opportunity to respond to that. But collectively, you guys are responsible if the treasurer's not doing his job, and you're also responsible if the county councilor's not doing his job. There is no reason whatsoever that a decade of back taxes or specials have accrued out in Lawrence Bay, which is another reason to prove that the economic development is not going the right direction, because the only reason in God's green earth they would have ever approved a subdivision like that was because of the massive amount of people that were going to move in and didn't. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker that is signed up is Carol Marple.
My name is Carol Marple. I live at 10249 Southwest Wanamaker Road, Wakarusa, Kansas, 66546. I am here today to speak against exceeding the revenue neutral rate increase. I do not know how many times the taxpayer has to come before the county commissioners telling them that we simply cannot afford another tax raise. Many people in this county simply want to stay in their homes, but these constant tax increases are making it prohibitive for some of us. I would like to talk a minute about how these constant tax increases affects us as farmers. In August, I purchased a 2017 Dodge Ram pickup with a utility bed. It was to replace our existing service truck, which really needs to go to service truck heaven. I paid $3,600 for it. It had 247,206 miles on it, which is really nothing in our house. But you can imagine my surprise when I went to pay what the personal property tax would be. It would not be figured on what I paid for the truck. It would be figured on what the appraiser values a 2017 Dodge Ram pickup. I could also try for a tax exemption for the service bed, but I would need to fill out the papers, provide pictures, and have my paperwork notarized, like I have nothing else to do. I will use the farm that we live on as another example. There are 316 acres there. Our house was built in 1920, had 2 stories with approximately 900 square feet total. We remodeled 8 years ago to update the electricity, plumbing, and put a bedroom and a bathroom downstairs and to make the kitchen a little more friendly. We have a building there that has 4 walls, a roof, and a dirt floor, which we shed some of our equipment on. We have another building with a cement floor, a bathroom, which we use as a machine shop. Last year, the taxes were $16,050. I have no idea where it'll go next year. The crop that is on that farm is corn. Yesterday's Cargill price for corn was $3.82. Corn is the crop that we have to plant on, that we have on the farm. The first 4,202 bushels of corn, which is over 4 semi-loads, raised on this farm will have to go to pay taxes. Then we will have to pay our land payment, our insurance, and input costs. Many of our dollars are spent in the county, and it will have to be a trickle-down theory. We have less, our suppliers make less. We have very little control of the prices we receive for our commodities. In many ways, we are like people on a fixed income. I don't want to be the person that tells an 80-year-old person that they've got to go back to work so they continue to live in their house. I can't understand how much clearer we have to make to the county and the people who run the county, which is you, commissioners. We cannot afford more taxes. I would like to remind the commissioners of Earl McIntosh's petition on not raising taxes without a public vote. He got the signatures. I also want to close with the comment, I agree with the gentleman. Last year's meeting was August 21st at 5:30, and you had a well-attended meeting. Look at what you have today. Thank you.
The next speaker is Linnell Griffith.
Good morning, Linnell Griffith. I live in Topeka. So Thank you, commissioners, for your service. I'm sure it's not an easy job. I appreciate this hearing, and I hope that you truly will hear us. Today, when I speak, I'm not going to speak about the nitty-gritty details of the budget per se, but just remind you of general concepts for good government. Again, we want to stick to our core functions of government to be more efficient and smaller. Just to name a few, our roads, our water, our waste, our safety, our schools, our elections. I know we need these. I'll pay taxes for that. Keep in mind, we write our checks to Shawnee County, and then it goes to dozen-ish other taxing entities. I understand that. So maybe you get a little bit more of the heat because that's who we write our checks to. So today I'm asking you to lead the way in doing a more efficient, a better way for all the other taxing entities. In general, if we're not growing, don't spend money on amenities that we can't afford, and don't get into what the private sector can handle. Just general concepts right there. For example, the city of Topeka spent roughly $7 million on a hotel that should have been the private sector. I heard complaints that are $8.2 million that should have come from the ad valorem from the state did not reach Topeka. I know, and they're not going to do that, or did not reach our county. But when we're complaining about $8.2 million, but then a taxing entity of the county spends $7 million on the private sector, that tells me our tax dollars are not being respected. I'm respecting you. I'm just like, how can I get you to listen to us? We're having a hard time making it. We reach a tipping point in society where we're being taxed so much that we're getting taxed out. I've talked to people taxed out of their homes, taxed out of this community, whereas otherwise other people may not be privy to this information, but people come to me because they have to. And they let me know they're getting taxed right out of their homes. We reach a tip. People are trying to make it on their own, but you tax them more and more and more, and we reach that tipping point where more and more people are reliant on the government. We think we have a housing problem now? Keep on taxing people out of their homes. I'm telling you, the amenities are nice. I like the shiny things, but if we can't afford it, we're not Johnson County. We can't afford it. All right, let's stick to the basics. Now, zero-based budgeting. What'd you spend last year for every budget? And what do you really need? Let's start there. That's where you commissioners can lead the way for the rest of all the taxing entities in the county. We're calling on you to lead this way. Now, I've also heard, there's obligations set by the state legislature. We are Americans, we can change the law. So if there's problems, tell them what those problems are. Let's change the law. Speak to that. Again, we're looking to you to lead the way. With all respect, you're in a tough spot, but we need you to lead the way, and I know that you can. Think of the long term. We need to grow our population. As already mentioned, we can't tax people. Look at Heartland Park as an example, okay? Taxing them right out of business, that was revenue. It is better to lay off extra government employees because we can't afford it than it is to force people to move out of their homes and move out of the county. We have to remember that. We want a thriving community that attracts people and businesses, and the tax environment can make or break that. Please stick to the core functions and zero-based budgeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jonathan Smith.
Good morning, Commissioners. I would also like to take a moment to double on what that man said, that if these hearings were to happen in the evening, we would have a much stronger public turnout. I did have to take off work for this day, which means I'm losing out on hundreds of dollars just to be here, so hopefully this is worth it. There have been a few comments today about keeping property taxes down, and I very much agree with these statements. And although I understand the thought process and theory behind maintaining a revenue-neutral rate, this theory ignores the contractual obligations regarding natural annual salary increases for county staff and typical cost increases for normal inflation in various departments. I've watched every single one of these county department budget discussions. The commissioners are very much trying to keep the budget as low as possible. Telling them to try harder is not really an actionable request of the commission. If you want to lower the mill levy and thusly your property taxes, you should specifically address which department you would like to see the layoffs and/or reduction in services. All of this to say, be specific. If you want the budget reduction, say that. Say it with your chest, but tell the public what services you want reduced. From what department would you like personnel to lose their jobs? Because that is what is on the other side of these decisions. Personally, after watching the budget discussions on August 22nd, I would like a bit of a stronger audit on the sheriff's department. It sounds like they have several line items that don't really have a reason beyond, well, just because. Just because we have to get that specific training, just because we have to get that specific certification. I would like to dig into these line items a little more because I see the consent agenda items that we send a couple of sheriff's deputies over to Vegas or Idaho or Florida for some conference. And I have to ask, is this something that is required because we have dusty equipment that if we don't maintain certification for, then otherwise we have it for no reason? Or is it providing a service to Shawnee County that we cannot live without? I'm not so sure these questions are being asked because no one wants to be the person politically that reduces the services that the sheriff department offers. But when one of those services is sniper certification, I have to ask, how often are we really using that? And of course, I'm not going to stand up here and act like I know how the sheriff's department is run. I don't. But that means that a little bit more transparency toward the public, not in private conversations, but publicly, would help facilitate a little bit more understanding from the perspective of the citizenry toward the second largest budget of the county, second only to the corrections department. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present wishing to speak? Please come to the podium, state your name for the record.
Hi, my name's Bianca Rubio.
Your time has begun.
I just moved to Topeka 4 weeks ago, and I had a sticker shock. Obviously, I know that the economy is in an inflation, and everyone is having difficulties dealing with that. But I also know that it could be done better. I came from South Carolina, and before that I lived in Tennessee and in Florida. And 2 of those states have no income tax. And in Tennessee, you would think that the property taxes would be high because they have no income tax, but actually it's lower than here. So what my question is I know the population in Florida and in Tennessee now is probably much higher than Kansas, but as some people have mentioned, by continuing to raise taxes, you are going to reduce that population even more. And something that I've realized here in Topeka is that the city has a deficit, whereas at the state level, there was a surplus this past year. So I understand that state income taxes have gone down, but what I don't understand is if the state as a whole is finding it okay to budget wisely, why is the county and city having such a hard time? And then my other question is, I understand that a budget worksheet was provided, and in Florida, obviously, a lot of the government records are open records. They have a sunshine policy, and I know Kansas has an open record policy as well. I've researched the statute. So what I wanted to know is how would I go about getting a detailed budget line items on the request for this year? Because as some people have mentioned, I see that there was a final budget, and then I see the increases that are being requested, but I don't understand is what is that increase going to? So just to be a more informed citizen of this new community for Topeka for me, I just want to understand what is it going to? Because I don't want to come up here and say that you're not doing your jobs and keeping the taxes low when I don't understand why the more funds are needed. So I would probably ask someone out there later on if I can file and open records for that information. I do understand, like other people have mentioned, that it is a tough job. I do urge you to please keep the neutral revenue rate. I just purchased my home. It is in a good neighborhood, and I don't really want to have to leave it if taxes continue to go up. And I am comparing you to other states and cities that I've lived in, which Topeka is the biggest city that I've lived in. I've lived in Morristown, Tennessee, and Greenwood, South Carolina, very, very small cities, who my property tax for my home, which is even bigger home than it was here, was only $4,000 a year, and it's now gone up to $8,000. And I anticipate from what I've seen in the news that the property valuations are going up, and then on top of that, the mill rates are going up, and I'm just starting to get a little bit worried about living in Topeka. Obviously, it is a great town. I've met a lot of great people. There's a great community here, and I really urge the commissioners to consider that. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kim Borchers. I live at 5521 Northwest Timber Edge Drive, and I'm familiar with some of you, your personal friends. And I had actually no intention of speaking, but there's a few things that I want to reinforce. When you do have 9 o'clock in the morning meetings, you're telling the public, I don't want you here. I know how hard it is to work in government. I worked for Governor Sam Brownback at the highest level. I was the deputy chief of staff. I understand budgets. I'm going to give you an anecdotal story on personnel. The Department of Cosmetology was insistent that they needed to make a new hire. The woman who was in charge of citations was over 7 months behind. What we did is we brought in a really talented young law student who came in. And she cleaned up those citations in 1 month, because she was young, innovative, creative, and got the job done. The gal who said we needed more people couldn't get the job done. She ultimately retired. So instead of needing 2 people, we only had 1. I know the recommendation was made, who wants to come in and tell you what department to let go, who needs to be fired, and so forth. And the reality is we as citizens, we're not in that agency every single day. But I have lived in this community, let me see, my daughter's 27 years old. I base everything on the ages of my kids. And we've not modernized here. We still run Topeka like it's the 1950s. If we were a business, we'd be out of business. And when we say revenue, you don't generate anything. You don't create anything. Those are taxes. And as I have looked at the tax increases on my home, and we're in a fortunate position. God's really blessed us. My husband's a local primary care doc, and I'm flourishing in my business. I do look at those numbers. We own our house. And I'm like, once we're retired, how are we going to afford the taxes on this home? I'd be forced to downsize, not because I want to, just in order to make sure I am budgeting accordingly. I'll also say this, the property tax that we're paying on our cars, I remember talking to a local business owner. I told him how much I was paying for my car, and on taxes, he goes, "You're driving too new." Look what we're doing to our industry for the many folks who own car dealerships. Because we tax things so high, you got a lot of people who are hanging onto the cars, where if the taxes were lower, they could probably generate some more income in here. Good sales tax. I know your jobs are hard. But the statement was made, why don't we lead? Let's actually make these hearings meaningful. How about you guys change your mind? How about you go back, you make cuts, don't leave I know what happens on those line items. There's a lot of empty positions that are open. You have them as FTEs and they're open and they're not filled and they're budgeted in that budget for personnel. Please lead. Let everybody know that these aren't just window dressing, that everybody feels really good at the Capitol, oh, we're going to have these hearings, and so the public can come in. Lead on this. Actually cut that budget and let people know that their voices really matter. So thank you for your service.
Are there any other persons present wishing to speak? I'd like to thank everybody for your comments made this morning. Seeing no further public comment, we will move on to consideration of whether to exceed the revenue neutral rate for Shawnee County's 2025 budget via the adoption of 2024-58. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-58 authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget year for Shawnee County that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 46.561 mil?
Did we want to have any discussion before making a motion?
County Councilor?
Usually you have a motion and a second, and then you have discussion.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'll second.
Commissioner Rippon has made a motion to approve Shawnee County Resolution 2024-58, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget for Shawnee County that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 46.51 mils. Commissioner Mays has seconded that motion. Is there any discussion on the county commission? Is there any commission discussion on the motion to adopt the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate? Commissioner Mays.
I mean, a lot of good conversation today. I mean, I think that the comments are well received. I think I certainly agree with a lot. Property taxes are too high. Some things need to change though. And as much as we think that as much as people think that we have all of the control here, what we can control is our budget. And then we can, hopefully at some point create more revenue. And the revenue comes from growth, which is it's a long game. I mean, we can't just grow the tax base overnight. It's multiple years. And also by cutting spending, we're cutting services. I mean, I've been through this budget 5 years now, and there's not a lot of waste. I mean, you can ask our department heads. We are pretty thorough in our budgets, I feel like. And just looking at this particular budget, if you look at some of the bigger increases, we've got a $900,000 increase to Department of Corrections. We've got $500,000 extra to the district attorney, which is to pay for a new software that they can investigate crime through body cam footage. The sheriff has a $1.2 million increase. So total those up, $2.6 million is just going to law enforcement. And, I think we set a record for murders this year in Shawnee County. I mean, that's an easy place to cut, right? $2.6 million, and that's gets us to a pretty good place on this budget. But I don't want to do that. I mean, it's frustrating. The other thing that, that commission was mentioned, the county counselor, I believe, did research that last year. That was put into statute for the unification of Wyandotte County, for Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County.
Well, it says, pardon, all
Objection.
counties
You are not allowed to speak from the audience. You will have an
170
opportunity.
or more to 200,000.
Sir,
Right.
please restrain yourself.
Which I believe was narrowly crafted to meet the population of Wyandotte County at the time. But I fully understand that that's what's in statute there. So, not that I'm opposed to a commission looking over our budget. I mean, perhaps that would be easier for us. I don't know. We spend a lot of time on this budget. We've we've been working on it for, what, 2 months now? That, since July. So, I'm happy to find cuts if there are realistic cuts. A suggestion was made last year by Ms. Griffith that we digitize our Parks and Rec catalog. We did that. We did that. I took her suggestion, and it saved us approximately $30,000. We have a problem in that we are, I believe, one of the only forms of government that don't receive sales taxes. The state of Kansas also receives income taxes. We had the local ad valorem tax reduction fund, the special city county revenue sharing fund that are on the books at the state of Kansas. They chose, although hearing from everybody that they wanted decreases in taxes, the legislature chose to reduce income taxes instead of property taxes. That was an easy way. That would have been about $8 million that would have come to Shawnee County to reduce property taxes. I'm hoping that when the legislature comes back, they'll revisit our taxation and perhaps, you know, it seems to me that people, just generally speaking, myself included, are frustrated by property taxes. I'm a homeowner, and I pay a lot in property taxes. I don't like it any more than anyone else. The other options, though, to fund government are sales tax and income tax. And so, you know, it's a pick your poison type of a situation, I guess, to pay for the services that we receive. Unfortunately, at our level, we really only have one option. So, I mean, if we want to look at cutting, let's look at cutting. We've got a pretty significant budget. And we are lowering the mill levy. I know everybody says that's disingenuous to say, but it's true. And so, the other increase that I mentioned, that I didn't mention, was Vallejo. Vallejo's request last year was $2.25 million, which I believe was an increase from $2 million the year before. They requested $3 million this year because of the uninsured population that they're treating. People are not paying their bills at Vallejo. And also, you know, we look at that and I think, you know, substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment is an important thing that we pay for. I would hope that the state of Kansas would step up and help out with that as well. That would require, most likely, expanding Medicaid, which they've been unwilling to do. So, and I'm not gonna get into a discussion on whether that's right or wrong, but it is costing us money at this level. So, I mean, those are my comments. Be interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yeah, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize probably 90% of what we do is required by the state. We're required to have a jail. We're required to have a sheriff's department. We're required to have election
Sir,
officers. Stuff.
If you cannot restrain yourself,
I said nothing.
waving your clipboard is distracting to the audience.
I'm sitting in the back. Nobody sees me.
We're required to have an election office, a health department, a weed department. It goes on and on. And about the only thing we're not required is probably Parks and Rec. But when you talk about quality of life, that's Parks and Rec. When you talk about trails, swimming pools, kids programs, softball, baseball, girls softball, that's quality of life. And I don't feel like cutting there very, very deep. The other thing is inflation. The same inflation that hurts you hurts us. We're major consumers. We're buying a lot of asphalt, we're buying a lot of gravel, we're buying salt, we're buying a lot of things that you guys don't buy, but believe me, the price of it's all gone up. The other thing is just salaries for employees. In order to attract people and to keep them, our salaries have had to keep pace with the private sector and other government sectors. And sometimes that catches up with us, and we have a lack of people. We had that problem in the jail a few years ago. We were 70 people down. We had to raise those salaries to get people in it. Now we're doing much better. We're, I think, under 10. And usually that's pretty much full. You're always gonna have something about like that. But, you know, the state could help us out a lot. They didn't do us any favors by doing away with the ad valorem. Of course, they hadn't paid it, and it was on the books of the state law for 20-some years, and they never did give us that money. They said, oh, we just use it as a slush fund. I don't see us using it as a slush fund. We could have had the zero neutral rate had we got the ad valorem tax, but we didn't get it. But they want to reduce our property tax, but they didn't do it. The only slush fund I see is under the dome. They could pony up. And, you know, we're not the only ones that dig into this property tax. It's the city, it's the library, it's the airports. So we're not the only ones who use that money. And I get tired of people saying, you know, to reduce property tax, you need to go talk to your county commissioners, because we're just a part of it. There's a lot of other entities that are digging into that property tax, and be aware of that. But I think we do a good job of keeping this budget tight. We're looking over it. We spend a lot of hours combing over this, and we're not free spending like a drunken sailor. We're not doing that here. So.
Much like the other two commissioners, my comments will echo some of the same sentiments. I'm going to start with our Register of Deeds. Becky Niosi, when she took office, had an office of, I believe, at least 5, if not 6 employees. Her office is now 3. And I could see it even going possibly down to 2 at some point. The clerk's office had more staff than it has now. The Shawnee County Department of Corrections had 84 vacancies last year. When you have 84 vacancies, your officers are working overtime, forced overtime. That forced overtime actually caused the Department of Corrections to go over budget last year. This year, we have filled those positions. We filled those positions through a number of means: recruitment, adding bonuses at signing, keeping people on, trying to keep people retention. We now are at 4 positions open. That's not to say that we're not taking applications, because we are. I know that if Brian Cole was in the room right now, he would tell you we're still taking applications at the Department of Corrections. The City of Topeka Law Enforcement, Topeka Police Department, their sworn officers have over 40 vacancies. The Shawnee County Sheriff's deputies do not. Part of that is in retention, part of that is in recruitment, but there's a lot of work that goes into filling a staff. Those are things in law enforcement, and if you look at the budget, you'll see that law enforcement makes up a lot of what our budget consists of. I agree with the sentiments of Commissioner Rippon. Parks and recreation is the quality of life. That's what attracts people to your community and retains people in your community. You want to be able to see quality of life, and if you look at what people are moving to be able to have amenities. Are there walking trails? Are there things for my family to do? This last Sunday, the pickleball courts were full. Family Park was full of families enjoying time together. And that seems to be what we would want as a community. Now, when you look at the inflationary costs as spoken to by Commissioner Rippon, yes, we have been struck by inflation just the same as everybody else. Go to your local grocery store. Is the price of milk, bread, eggs, cheese the same as it was a year ago? Or has it increased? It's hard to walk through your grocery store and find something less than $5.99. Most things are more expensive than they were a year ago. Holding true to a revenue neutral rate is an ideal. Not spending more than you did the year before, dollar for dollar. That's a great ideal. And we should be held accountable to that. And we should be able to explain to the community why we are spending $1 more than we did the year before. And that's the purpose of this hearing. That's the purpose of the budget. The budget doesn't start in August. The budget actually starts in January. Shawnee County Commissioners are meeting with the department heads beginning in January when they start working on preparing their budget. A preliminary draft starts in March. The budgets are received by the commissioners in their draft form in May. Public hearings begin in June and July. Public hearings are attended by the public. They're recorded online for the public to be able to see. And in these department heads, every single department head explains. Ms. Griffith asked, why don't you talk about where your lines are? The public has the ability to watch, review at any time from the leisure of their home, at the community library, any other community center that has the connections to be able to view the internet. What was discussed? Why are they asking for more? We make these as open and transparent as we possibly can so that the public knows exactly where their dollars are going. But we also have to look at, outside of inflation and filling those spots, what are the obligations put upon us by the state government? There has been more and more pushed down upon your local governments by the state. You can go back to even looking at mental health, going back to the mid-90s, when we started closing state hospitals. Shawnee County was once known as the mental health center of the capital, if not the United States. Through Meningers, through the state hospital, but we defunded, the state defunded mental health and put those burdens upon the local government. We now have over $2 million a year that's going to Vallejo just to assist with mental health, drug and alcohol counseling, and those things that would otherwise have been the obligation of the state. We committed to building a $20 million mental health facility attached to our jail. 3 decades ago, that would have been the mental health facility of the state hospital. Again, the state has put the burden upon your local government. The local government does not have the ability to raise or create income. Mr. McClure said we should be an income generator. We don't really, by state statute, have the ability to generate income. We are very limited in those things that we can get into. We are not able to create leasing entities and start creating landlord entities of that nature. And I don't know that the public would want us to get into land speculation. If you look at people that get into land speculation, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And when it comes to public tax dollars, you better not lose. So, finally, we have to look at the state. There was comments about the taxes that are on vehicles. That is not something that is within the confines and controls of the Shawnee County. That, again, is a state formula. What we look at is our property taxes and the mill levies that are assessed upon. So, with that, those are my comments. Is there any further discussion from the commissioners?
I'll just,
Commissioner Mays.
a couple things that you guys reminded me of. One is the hotel was mentioned. We did not buy the hotel. We had the possibility of doing it, and we chose not to. And then also the budget transparency. This year, we purchased a new budgeting software, which should definitely modernizes the way that we're doing things for our budget, and it's been a little bit of a process getting it onboarded, but we are getting more and more transparent by the day within our budgeting. So just those two things I wanted to add.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion by the commissioners, I would ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion to adopt the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Rippon.
Yes.
The vote to adopt the Shawnee County Resolution 2024-58, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget year for Shawnee County that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 46.561 mils passes by a vote of 3-0. Is there a motion to close the Is there a motion to close the public revenue neutral rate hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Rippon to close the public revenue neutral rate. That motion has been seconded by Commissioner Mays. Please call roll call.
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Rippon?
The vote to close the public revenue neutral rate hearing passes 3-0. Therefore, the public hearing is closed. Our next item.
Public hearing in consideration of Shawnee County Resolution Number 2024-59, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget year for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 2 that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 7.290 mils, and public hearing in consideration of Shawnee County Resolution Number 2024-60, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget year for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 6 that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 20.144 mils.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move that we open the public hearing.
Is there a second? I will second. Roll call vote?
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Rippon?
Yes.
The vote has passed 3-0. The revenue neutral rate for the public hearing for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 2 and 6 is now open. We will begin by following the same procedure for this public hearing as we did for the Shawnee County revenue neutral rate hearing that we have just completed. We will begin with a staff presentation, followed by hearing, public comments, followed by discussion, and a vote of the commission on whether to exceed the revenue neutral rate for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 2 and Number 6.
Point of order. I would feel like we should probably do these two sewer districts separately. As an abundance of caution. Would
It's your
the counselor agree with me? I mean,
We have.
I feel like we're doing two different sewer districts at the same time, two separate mill levies. I think it's probably more appropriate to separate them out.
In our study of several other counties and sewer districts and cities, we've seen it done both ways. On the, I don't want to say minor, because it's not minor to that district, but our sewer districts, we've seen it done both ways. It's personal preference is my point.
I feel like we're under closer scrutiny than a lot of other counties, and I would prefer to separate them out.
Fine. We will separate them out. How do you wish to proceed, County Counselor? Our next step.
I think you're at the point where you would read the rules just like you did the last time.
Yeah.
And then we would open up public comment for sewer district number 2.
All right, then we will do this separately, starting with Sewer District Number 2. If the Public Works Director would explain to the County Counselor, or County Commissioners, as to Sewer District Number 2 as a taxing entity, its request.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. You should have before you this piece of paper that kind of summarizes year-end balances for Sewer District Number 2. The table also summarizes revenue and expenses. The year-end balances for 2018 were $22,758. It's important to note that at the end of 2018, the balance was so low compared to the prior year is because we had to clean the lagoons, which are required approximately every 20 to 25 years. So the goal between 2018 and 25 years from 2018 is to generate enough excess revenue over expenses that when the time comes that we have to clean the lagoons out again, we have adequate revenue or adequate funds in place to perform that service. So the goal every year is to increase the year-end balance. So at the end of 25 years, we have an adequate balance of funds. In my assessment of what we've seen over the past 7-8 years, I felt like we needed to continue on with the existing mill levy and thus generate approximately $2,000 to $3,000 over expenses for 2025. That's a simple explanation of where the mill levy of 7.290, I believe, came from. Is that right?
Do the commissioners have any questions for the Public Works Director regarding Sewer District Number 2?
Thank you.
We will now hear public comment, and before we begin, the following rules apply. We ask you limit your remarks to whether Shawnee County should exceed the revenue neutral rate for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 2. Everyone will be allowed an opportunity to speak. When you would like to speak, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Each speaker will be limited to 4 minutes. There is a timer for each of the TV screens that will assist you with that time limit. Thank you in advance for your cooperation and patience. We will now hear public comments. Is there anyone wishing to speak in regards to Sewer District Number 2?
Steve Harris, 2624 Southwest Ashworth Place. My question is real simple. What the heck are these two districts? That's it.
Is there anyone else wanting to speak on the public comment? All right. Seeing no further public comment, we will move to consideration as to whether to exceed the revenue neutral rate for Sewer District Number 2. And we'll have a vote. This is one resolution, but we will take a separate vote on each section.
Yeah,
So,
steps
as,
15 through the end, you'll have to do for each sewer district.
so as to Resolution 2024-60, as to Sewer District Number 2, is there a motion to adopt the Resolution 2024-60 as to Sewer District Number 2 that would exceed the revenue neutral rate?
I would make a motion
I would
to
second.
adopt the resolution.
Commissioner Mays has made a motion to adopt the resolution. Commissioner Rippon has seconded that motion. Is there any commission discussion on the revenue neutral rate for Sewer District Number 2? Specifically as to the question, what is a sewer district? Commissioner?
Can we have Kurt come up and?
Kurt, what is a sewer district?
A sewer district, I guess you could call it an island. It's a community of homes that have their own unique collection system and their own unique treatment system. And in this case, the treatment system is a lagoon. And the lagoons, as I said previously, need maintenance from time to time. The last time we did it was approximately $100,000. And the next time we do it, it might be $130,000 to $140,000. So it's my responsibility, again, to make certain that these, there's revenue, it's ample revenue, it's ample funds available to do this, this service. As to where these sewer districts are located, they're both located northeast of the city of Topeka. One of them's on the Indian Creek watershed, and quite frankly, I don't really remember what watershed the other one is on. But it's a simple system, collection, lagoons, and that's it.
It's almost like a co-op.
Yeah, I guess you could
some
say
ways.
that, among a community of homes.
Is there any other commission discussion?
Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah.
All right. Hearing no further discussion by the commissioners, I would ask the clerk to call a roll call vote on the motion to adopt the, as to Sewer District Number 2, as to the revenue neutral rate.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Rippon.
Yes.
Okay. We will now hear as to the Sewer District Number 6. Is there, having public comment on the motion, let's see. I guess
Well,
we'll-
do you want a
we'll-
staff presentation on 6
Yes.
as well?
Kurt, if you can do a staff presentation on Sewer District Number 6.
Well, did we close the hearing on 2?
No.
If you want to do them separately, you will need to close the
Okay.
hearing and roll call.
I would make a motion that we close the public hearing on sewer district number 2.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays to close the public hearing on sewer district number 2. That motion has been seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Public roll call vote?
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Rippon?
Yes.
That motion has passed 3-0 to close the public hearing as to sewer district number 2. We will now go as to sewer district number 6. Is there a motion to open
Well, Commissioner, if we're going to separate them, we should probably do the roll call vote for 2. We should just
All right,
treat each one like it's its own
all right.
mill levy entity, which it is. My apologies.
I would move that we approve and adopt Shawnee County Resolution 2024-60, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget year for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 2 that would exceed the revenue neutral rate of 7.290 mils. Is there a second?
Can I ask just a quick clarification?
Yes.
Are we sure Resolution 60
I'm 5-0.
refers
Right.
to Sewer District 2?
Okay. County
does
Clerk,
not.
is it
It's
5-9?
59.
All right. For the public record, Sewer District Number 2 is 2024-59. Any reference to 60 is incorrect. I'm asking that to be removed by the clerk and modified by the clerk to reflect that it is 2024-59. I would make a motion to have the clerk modify the record to reflect that it is 2024-59 for Sewer District Number 2. Is there a motion to that effect?
But I thought you just made a motion.
I'm making the motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Cook to publicly have the clerk make record that Sewer District Number 2 is 2024-59. Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. Roll call vote on modifying the record to so reflect.
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Rippon?
Yes.
All right. Now, is there anything else, County Councilor, as to Sewer District Number 2?
You just did the roll call vote.
We've modified the record to reflect it. We've had a roll call vote to approve it. We've closed the public hearing on it.
Then you're done here. Now it's time to go back to number 6.
All right.
Start at step 15.
All right. Now, Kurt, you want to make a presentation as to Sewer District Number 6?
Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. The comments about Sewer District Number 6 are very similar to those that I made for Sewer District Number 2. The difference between the year-end balance and between year 2017 and year 2018 was $95,000. And the bulk of that was approximately $100,000 spent to clean out the lagoons, similar to Sewer District Number 2. The difference being that if you move from 2018 through 2024, the year-ending balance for Sewer District Number 6 has decreased. So unlike Sewer District Number 2, in which I could go with the same mill levy from 2024 of 7.561 mils, in this case, I need to increase the mill levy to generate enough revenue so that we have a positive flow of revenue over expenses. Again, so that in approximately 20 to 25 years, we have adequate funds in place to clean the lagoons.
Thank you, Kurt. Do the commissioners have any questions for the Public Works Director?
No.
We will now hear public comment. Before we begin, the following rules will apply. We would ask you to limit your remarks to whether Shawnee County should exceed the revenue neutral rate for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 6. Everyone will have an opportunity to speak. We would ask you to speak, come to the podium, state your name and address. Each speaker will be limited to 4 minutes, and there's a timer on each of the TV screens that will assist you with that time limit. Thank you in advance for your cooperation and patience. We will now hear public comment as to Sewer District Number 6.
Need to make a motion to open the public hearing on Sewer District Number 6.
County Councilor, did we not make a motion to open the public hearing? I thought we were at step number 15.
15 is the staff presentation.
Okay.
Then after that, you open the public hearing.
All right. So you want, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Mays to open the public hearing. There's been a second by Commissioner Rippon to open the public hearing. Roll call vote.
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Rippon?
Yes.
That is passed 3-0. The revenue neutral rate public hearing for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 6 is now open. We will now hear public comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak? There has been no public comment on Sewer District Number 6. We will now move to consideration of whether to exceed the revenue neutral rate for Sewer District Number 6 via the adoption of Resolution 2024-60. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-60, authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the 2025 budget year for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 6 that would exceed the revenue neutral rate of 20.144 mils?
I think it was 7,
No.
no?
Resolution
was-
2024-59 is
Oh, okay.
7.290.
All right.
Resolution 2024.60 is 20.144.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Roll call vote.
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Rippon?
Yes.
Okay. The vote to adopt Shawnee County Resolution 2024-60, authorizing a levy of property tax in support of the 2025 budget for Shawnee County Sewer District Number 6 that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 20.144 mils, passes by a vote of 3-0. Is there a motion to close the public revenue neutral rate hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Rippon to close the public revenue neutral rate hearing. That's seconded by Commissioner Mays. Public roll call vote.
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Rippon?
Yes.
That has passed. The vote to close the public revenue neutral rate passes 3-0. Therefore, the public hearing is now closed. We will now proceed to the next agenda item.
Item 2, 2025 budget public hearing. A, public hearing in consideration of Shawnee County's 2025 proposed budget.
Before you begin, County Councilor, is there anything further that is required by statute for the revenue neutral rate hearings?
At some peril, I believe we have completed everything that we need to do.
Thank you.
That peril be to me.
Just the signatures at the end.
We will note that we were going to be signing the 3 resolutions today at the conclusion of this meeting. They will be signed this day by each commissioner.
Jennifer Sauer, Financial Administrator. So I believe you are ready to begin the public hearing on the 2025 proposed budget. So before you begin, I thought I would just go over a brief summary of what our budget timeline was. You kind of touched on it earlier. I have some specific dates for when we actually sent some items out to to the departments and when it returned. We did start some preliminary work this spring, and as Commissioner Mays discussed, we rolled out a new budget software called Questica this year, so that brought its own set of hurdles that we had to jump over, and the departments were very gracious in making sure that that all got done. So the end result is that we were able to put together a budget that provided some extra transparency to the commissioners this year, and eventually we will get to the point where by this time next year we hope to have those transparencies also more apparent to the public. But our budget process officially begins May 5th. Departments review and prepare their budget requests and their capital improvement requests. On June 16th, the budget requests were submitted to Audit Finance for our office's review. On June 25th, after reviewing the requests made by the departments, getting further information from the departments, and asking for clarifications, the budgets are then distributed to the county commissioners for their review. On June 27th and July 1st of this year, the departments presented their budgets and their CIP requests to the commissioners during departmental budget hearings. On July 11th, the commission discussed the 2025 budget and signed a resolution notifying the county clerk of their intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, and included in that budget was an uncategorized reduction of $750,000 from the departmental budget requests. Discussions were held on August 8th and 12th for the capital improvement plan for the 2025 during commission meeting and a work session during BCC meetings on August 15th and 22nd of this year. The commission discussed revisions to the 2025 budget, which resulted in the handout that we provided today, which shows your proposed 2025 budget today. That includes a $953,478 reduction in the departmental budget requests, which surpassed the required $750,000 that was set on July 11th by $203,478. And with the resolution that you all just voted to pass to authorize exceeding the revenue neutral rate for Shawnee County, we are now able to discuss the 2025 proposed budget as presented. So do you have any further questions for me prior to opening the hearing?
Any questions for Jennifer? No. All right. Jennifer, do you want to pull up the budget on, I don't know that we need.
I'm not sure how it
Okay.
affects,
All right.
well, we don't need the timer anymore.
Everybody has their sheet though, correct?
Yes, everybody has the
All right.
sheet.
All right. Just in case we need to refer to it at some point. All right.
I'm just gonna leave it with the bottom line, shall we?
Is there a motion to open the public hearing for consideration of the Shawnee County 2025 proposed budget?
I'll move that we open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon, to open the public hearing in consideration of the Shawnee County's 2025 proposed budget. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Rippon.
Yes.
The motion has passed 3-0 to open the public hearing in consideration of Shawnee County's 2025 proposed budget. Are there any persons wishing to speak as to the Shawnee County proposed budget for 2025? No individuals from the public have come forward to speak as to the 2025 proposed budget for Shawnee County. Is there a motion to close the public hearing as to the proposed Shawnee County budget for 2025?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Mays and seconded by Commissioner Rippon to close the public hearing for the consideration of Shawnee County's 2025 proposed budget. Roll call vote.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Rippon.
Yes.
The public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Was that approved and
I have, as the chair has the ability to add an item to the agenda at any time, and I have added item number 3J to the agenda, which is a temporary specialty license agreement between the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners and Cirque Entertainment 4 LLC. And that is added to the consent agenda as item number 3J. So is there any further discussion about the consent agenda?
I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? That motion passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk. Number 1, consider all voucher payments.
This morning, we have vouchers totaling $6,624,654.47. Three items to note under there, under courts, $83,407.56 to Converge One. For the court data center refresh, that was funded through ARPA SLFRF funds. Under sewer districts, $77,821.90 to Havens Construction Company Incorporated is for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation in, for the Sherwood Regional Wastewater District. And then under facilities management, $356,750.46 to Cini and Company is for the courthouse renovations through June. And hopefully this is one of our last payments on that. So I don't have any questions on any of this, and I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? That motion passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval of correction orders.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook to approve the correction orders, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? It passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B, Public Works. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-277-2024 with Shawnee County Rural Water District Number 8 for the relocation of a water line that is in conflict with a culvert replacement relocation project on Southeast 37th over a tributary to Whetstone Creek, Lake Javaro. The $16,532 cost will be funded from the Public Works Special Bridge Fund.
Good morning, Courtney House, Director of Public Works. Really, the acting clerk here today is had it all. We're doing a small culvert replacement project. We have a utility that's in the way. We need to relocate it at a cost of $16,532. I look forward to your questions.
Questions for the director? Is there a motion?
Actually, I do have a question.
Commissioner Mays?
Is this cost shared with the rural water district? I mean, are they paying a portion of it as well?
No, we're paying 100%. And we're required to because it's within our right of way.
Okay.
Or it's within an easement, so.
Okay, even though it's their water line?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 2, Consider a request to issue a request for qualifications for design and construction engineering services relating to a project to replace 2 bridges on Northwest Valencia Road, one over the Silver Lake drainage ditch and the other over a tributary to the same ditch.
Courtney House, Director of Public Works. In our ongoing endeavors to upgrade the county bridges, again, there are 261, using county-wide sales tax funds, we would like to bring on a consultant to design 2 bridge replacement projects on Valencia Road just north of US 24. These 2 bridges were on our 5-year plan that I guess were recently approved. And, you know, we're pretty efficient in Shawnee County Public Works, but we do not have the staff to design bridges. So that's why we hire consultants to do that. So with that, I look forward to your questions.
Questions?
No, no questions.
I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 3, consider awarding a bid, RFQ 33-24, to Central Salt LLC for up to 6,500 tons of de-icing salt at a unit cost of $51.78 per ton. This material will be used during the winter of 2024-25 in support of snow and ice removal operations on county-maintained roads, as well as on Grove and Monmouth Township roads.
Good morning, Commissioners. Courtney House, Director of Public Works. I hate to bring it up, but we have to start thinking about the winter of 2024-25. And as part of that, we need to prepare. We need chemical to clear the road of snow and ice. So we received some great bids. The lowest bid was from Central Salt in Lyons, Kansas, at a unit cost of $51.78. Represents a 39-cent drop in price from last year. I recommend the bid be approved, and once approved, we will start ordering salt. With that, I look forward to your question.
Any questions?
No. I would move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Rippon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item C, Department of Corrections, number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-278, 2024, a memorandum of agreement with the Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation for housing the nation's inmates at a daily rate of $100 per inmate and all off-site medical services paid.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. We were approached by Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation on looking at the possibility of housing their residents. And I'm always looking at different ways to, number one, to help out our community. This will allow us to help them build our relationships when it comes to emergencies and things like this. And in part of this contract, that the Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation is what we set by a resolution of $100 a day. We'll be paying $100 a day plus the off-site medical. That this contract has been reviewed by our council as to legality and form, and if approved, we will get it back to them for signature and final approval. I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Commissioner Mays.
Brian, you say off-site medical. We're still on the hook for any medical provided within the jail then?
Yes, typically that's very minor. If they, I have a sore throat, and we have to provide those services anyway. That stuff is built, a lot of it, into our contract already. So those are typically very minor cost, or I have a toothache, can I have medication like Tylenol, something like that. But we're talking about the major expenses is what we do pretty much for everybody. The per diem does pretty much cover the inside, but the outside cost, if somebody has to go out, heart problems, cancer, broken bones, therapies, eyeglasses, stuff like that, we have to get prior approval from their corporate office for Armor, to make sure that the need is necessary. If somebody said, I wanted braces, we would say no. And trust me, we've had that. But that they would pay the offsite, which is the very high expensive. We would adjudicate the bills and then send that.
What about like an expensive prescription drug? If somebody comes in, you know, obviously like they don't bring their own medications
Correct.
into the jail, we issue medications.
Yeah,
If somebody's on
that's covered by
something
our
that's
per diem.
$1,000, I mean,
That is covered by our existing per diem rate for that. That's already included into that. If it was something very, very expensive, which we can see sometimes an HIV medication can be very expensive or some psychotropics, we would work with Prairie Band if it came to something really, really expensive. Majority of the people that we get will probably be here. They said the average length of stay probably would be 1 or 2 days, so the majority of people probably we won't venture down that road.
okay.
Brian, that's not what the contract says.
What's that?
Where does it say that you have the ability to negotiate a higher rate?
Higher rate for what?
Well, it says that because when we look at your memorandum and when you look at your cost, it says $100 per day, right? And you've told us more than one occasion that a mentally ill patient is more than $300 a day.
Correct.
And a normal, unmentally ill patient is maybe $100 a day.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're paying for their housing, their food, their medicals, we're losing money on this contract, aren't we?
No.
If you have a mentally ill patient from the tribe, from the nation come in, we're now at a deficit, correct?
If you're talking about medication, if you would, but our per diem rate is set by our rules at $100. Our rules are set by that.
But if the nation sends to us mentally ill patients, which we know in the law enforcement field, it's not uncommon to have people that are accused of crime having mental illness. Why don't you have two different rates, one for higher level of care versus a lower level of care?
That would be something we've never done. I hate to use that analogy that we've never done. We still have the right to refuse. If they call us and say we're going to bring somebody to them, we have the right to refuse. I do that with the marshals. We do that with them all the time.
But I mean, when you say that we would be negotiating a higher rate, I don't see that within the contract.
I don't know what you're
County
referring
Councilor,
to as a higher rate.
well, you indicated that if you have a person with a lot of medication, that would be something you would go to the nation and discuss with them, right? You were just in response to Commissioner Mays.
If it was something very, very expensive, yes.
But there's no provision in the contract for that.
Oh.
Is there, County Councilor?
We set the rate through the contract, that's the general rate. I'm scanning the contract right now. Is there a burning reason this has to be on today?
What's that?
Could we delay this contract 1 week while we have a chance to
Sure.
study this issue?
Yeah. Majority of the inmates, and I did talk, the majority of the people that we're going to get are not going to be what you say. I understand what you're saying. The reason our per diem rate is so high, which is higher than majority of the jails out there, is to cover for those expenses. Like, for example, one jail might charge $40, which doesn't cover any of this. When we have a contract for $100 a day, which was set by the commissioners, that includes the daily maintenance of them, not to exceed stuff that's very much higher. That's set by, we have our per diem rate, which is set by a company who looks at all of that, the rates, but I can certainly go back to them and say, if you're going to send me something that's gonna cost us more than $100 a day, we have that right now with the city. We have that with every contract we have. I've never negotiated a contract that has gone beyond the $100 a day with anybody. The city sends us people now.
Brian, if I can interrupt, in section 13 of the contract, it does allow that we can have an immediate removal of the prisoner for medical, dental, psychiatric treatment, or other catastrophic condition. And then we'll inform the nation about coming to pick up the inmate, so.
But, we can remove them.
Yeah.
But we don't have the ability to say we want to have you pay more money than what our contract says.
Right.
Most of the time, as of what I do with the marshal's office, if they have an inmate that comes to us and it's gonna be, exceeds that rate, they come pick them up and they take them out of our facility and they put him somewhere else. But I certainly will.
I just, at the podium, you've made the statement that if there's a higher issue, we would go back to the nation and ask for higher compensation.
Well, let me
And there's
clarify.
not anything within the contract that I have read that would permit that.
Other than we can say, well, come
Pick 'em up,
but
yeah.
come pick them up.
That's more than likely, that's what I would do, is say that you have a person that's come to us that's here that we need to talk about, you need to come get them, is what we would do. That's what I do with any other agency, is what they do for me. If I have people in Jackson County, they'll say, Brian, this guy now needs psychotropic medication. We're not paying for it, you need to come get it.
Is there a reason why we don't have the medical care from the general care broken into two separate parts?
I don't know. Tim, have we ever done that? Usually our per diem rate covers medical, except off-site.
Commissioner Cook, just Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. Just to clarify, do you mean have separate rates for a higher acuity problem versus a regular acuity problem?
Paragraph 19, section 19 says the Department of Corrections agrees to provide the nation with an itemized bill listing prisoner's name committed to the Department of Corrections Center, the days committed, the dollar amount due for commitment. And I don't know why we wouldn't add just a provision in that separately that says, this is your rate for housing and this is your amount for medical.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Commissioner, but that actually is in the contract. It's in 10B.
10B?
Yeah. Sorry I wasn't quicker to find that.
That's the records are kept and parties agree delay medical services. So we're keeping track of that.
However, if a prisoner requires non-emergent hospitalization or ongoing care for non-emergent medical condition, SNDOC shall advise and consult with the nation as soon as reasonably possible. Upon being so advised, the nation may elect to compensate for the cost or immediately retake.
And that's when we talk about taking them off-site.
That's the outpatient.
That's the outpatient off-site provision. So if they're going to be leaving our facility to go to the hospital,
That could pertain to any majority of anything. If I've never got into the business, if an inmate comes in, we house, like for Johnson County, and they pay me $100 and the guy wants to go and get a prescription for Tylenol and that costs me $5, I don't charge them $105.
well, but
But Commissioners, I don't see where it says off-site on 10.
I think maybe we need to defer this at least a week so we can do some review.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to defer.
Second.
Motion to defer by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
The only thing I will say is that if we will, and I'm happy to look at all those kinds, if we start nickel and diming the other agencies, we're going to lose our MOUs because we just will.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Our next item.
Number 2, request approval to prepare and issue specifications and solicit bids for updated cell furniture within the Juvenile Detention Center to be paid from the Detention Facility Project Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. This item is one of the things that, as we're preparing the 2024 budget, we put on our capital improvement plan, and then a discussion was had that we would find alternative dollars to pay for this. And we have the building fund that we believe will have funds for this. So we wanted to proceed with issuing the RFP and getting a bid on the per item cost to replace the furniture and the juvenile cells. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 3, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-279, 2024, a 5-year agreement with Smart Communications, Inc. for the department's inmate telecommunication system.
Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections, this is the final step in selecting a vendor for our inmate phone and video systems. We have decided to go with a different vendor that has what we believe are better technologies and more efficiencies. And so this agreement lets us to proceed to make the transition to the new vendor. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions? Mr. Phelps, Major Phelps, the Commission on Inmate Calls and Inmate Videos, these are all subject to the regulation by the Federal Trade Commission?
That is correct. The current ruling that they've made, and those things always have kind of take on their own life, but the current ruling would take effect for us in, I believe, April of 2025. So I intentionally had the contract written so that we would get maximum benefit of commission options until that ruling takes effect.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Rippon,
It's great.
second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Item D, Human Resources. Number 1, consider approval of 2025 employee benefits cost recommendation for changing the prescription drug coverage plan to Optum RX benefits.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. The Insurance Committee has 2 recommendations for you today. The first is to have the PPO, high deductible, and retiree insurance rates remain the same for the plan year 2025. This would be the 4th year without a rate increase if you are to approve that. Secondly, the Insurance Committee worked with our consultants, Willis Towers Watson's, and reviewed our prescription benefit plan, and we'd like to recommend that we move to Optimum RX benefits. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I'd like to thank the committee for their work and also noting that our health insurance rates have not changed for this year.
Thank you.
And I'll just
Commissioner Mason?
point out the change in the prescription provider is going to save a substantial amount from what we paid last year, and with what I would call minimal interruption to the care that people are receiving. So it's an interesting industry. I got to sit in a lot of these meetings, and things are changing very rapidly in that industry, and for the, I don't know if I'd say for the better, but it's certainly going to end up saving some money in our employee health insurance fund.
Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Rippon. All second. Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you, Angela. Our next item.
Item E, Sheriff's Office. Number 1, acknowledge receipt of correspondence from Sheriff Hill that due to an increase in staffing, the Sheriff's Office needs to purchase 10 additional body-worn cameras. This purchase will be made from Axon, referencing the existing contract C-245-2023 for our current body-worn cameras. The total purchase price will be $28,425 and will be paid over a 3-year period out of COPS grant funding and or budgeted funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shane Hubler, Sheriff's Office. As the clerk stated, this is for additional body cameras. We've had our body cameras for multiple years. The program started years ago with basically just our patrol officers, and we've expanded that. And as we've continued to expand that and we've been able to hire more officers, we just had an additional need for 10, and this is all paid out of, will all be paid out of COPS grant.
Okay. Questions?
Nope, I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
I guess acknowledgement.
Acknowledge. I'll second. Acknowledge.
Motion to acknowledge receipt from Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Item 5, public comment.
This is an opportunity for the public to address the commission on any item.
Marple. Since I'm here, I wanted to bring up something that it's an irritation to me. And when I've talked to the commissioners about it before, you guys have had it corrected. But I was out at the Stormont Vale Event Center a few weeks ago, and I kind of conceive this as an ongoing problem. I find it very tacky. We are the capital of Kansas, yet the flags at the event center, I was out there and the United States flag is ragged. The Kansas flag is faded. Why can't we keep those flags in good condition? And if there's a problem with money, I would suggest that the event center, I can't remember any year that they haven't gotten the bed tax money. Let's put that in a fund and designate it to keep our flags looking nice. And this is a paltry item, I guess, but I think it reflects very poorly on us as a county. And I mean, how hard is it to take a look at the flag and see that it's in good condition? And since I'm here, I wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah.
Any other public comment?
Henry McClure, I'll buy the flags. I'll donate them. If you guys got to approve the purchaser, if it's got to go through somebody at the Greater Topeka Chamber, let me know, but I'll donate the flags. I'll buy an American flag and I'll buy a state flag. Happy to do it. You know, sometimes we just got to step up and do it ourselves. What I really enjoyed about today's meeting was we are in the income business. Because when it comes to the jail, hey, you got a base rate and then you got the med rate. So the fact that we're not worried about income was made obvious today with just how we want to treat a contract that should have been negotiated before we got here and read through and not done in real time, and not berate a jailer when he doesn't need to have all that going on today. That was rude. We're not in the income business, you're right. The hypocrisy of it. You advocate economic development to a group called Go Topeka. You have an entity called JEDO that's totally a waste of time, because the whole idea was to broaden the tax base and increase the population. You haven't done it. But what you said, if we're not in the income business, then we don't need to pay $5 million a year for economic development. We need to take that $5 million a year and put it into infrastructure to make sure the road projects, the city says they've got a $16.5 million shortfall for the road projects that are on the ballot issue. But you can't have it both ways. You can't have it, well, we're not in the income business when Henry McClure stands up here, but then when all of a sudden we're in the income business when it comes to the jail. We are in the income business. And you guys, if you didn't, you should have ousted the treasurer or give the power back to the treasurer. But we're not collecting $8 million in taxes out in Lawrence Bay that have gone on for a decade because of who owns the real estate. You're going to pick and choose when you're going to enforce what rules we have. You're going to pick and choose when we're in the income business. We're in the income business over here, but we're not in the income business over here. And the hypocrisy of this is becoming prevalent to the community. And it's time for change. We've got to change. Tell me where I drop the flags off. I'll drop them off at your law office, Kevin. Thank you.
No, thank you. Mr. McClure, my law office is not related to the county commission. Any other public comment? Next item.
Item 6, administrative communications.
Are there any department heads wishing to address the commission?
Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. Just want to announce that we're heading in next week. We start our 4-week academy for basic officers. Believe we have well over 13, 14, 15 new officers that have been here. Some are brand new that will get going through our 4-week academy that we'll have on there. I'll have more information for graduation for you all, but I just wanted to announce that we're heading right back into our last academy for the year, and we have a good class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. Have 2 great events going on this weekend. The first event is the Touch a Truck, which will be going right over here on Kansas. I'm not sponsored, by the way, but I am participating with one of our brand-new trash trucks that I just delivered this week that we ordered back in 2023, so we are starting to get those in. So come on out with your children, if you have those, and participate in a great event. Another great event is our Household Hazardous Waste Saturday Collection event going on this weekend from 9 until noon, so feel free to come out to 131 Northeast 46th Street. Drop off any and all household hazardous waste. For more information, please call 286-4381. Thank you.
Any other administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Rippon.
I have nothing to add.
Commissioner Mays.
Nothing for me.
I have nothing further. Our next item.
Item 6, executive sessions.
There is not a need for an executive session. Therefore, we are adjourned.